What's up, everyone? Today we're bringing a deck profile on Fortune Ladies. Now, Fortune Ladies is a very cool deck that its main gimmick is increasing its level and attack during each standby phase, although you don't really use it for that gimmick because obviously that gimmick doesn't really work in Yu-Gi-Oh! Like at all unless it's 2002. But this deck can actually do some pretty cool stuff, and it's got some pretty good cards in it. But without further ado, let's get right into it. First, we got 3 Fortune Lady Past. Past is definitely a card you always want to see in this deck. Basically, you can banish any number of other spellcaster monsters from your hand, field, and or graveyard, and if you do, increase this card's level by the number of banished. Now, unlike most of the Fortune Ladies, this does have a hard once per turn on it, and you really only use it to banish like 1, because you really only want to increase its level up by 1. That, and the only card you really want to banish off the effect would be Lady Light, which we do play 3 of. Fortune Lady Light, whenever it is banished by a card effect, leaves the field by a card effect, you can special summon 1 Fortune Lady monster from your deck, aka or Fortune Lady Water, which we run 2 of. When this card is special summoned while you control a Fortune Lady monster, except water, draw 2 cards. So a lot of times what you do is you'll summon the Past, use an effect to summon the Light, use the effect to Past banish Light, which will summon the Water, and draw you 2 cards. I also run 2 Fortune Fairy Hikari. Fortune Fairy Hikari is the only Fortune Fairy we run, because it's got a cool additional effect to target 1 monster your opponent controls, or target 1 monster you control, send to the graveyard, and you can use that when it's special summoned. And like all the Fortune Fairies, it has an effect to, when you draw this card, you can reveal it, special summon it from your hand. So it's definitely really cool. So like, let's say you draw off of the water, you can basically attribute it to summon Past or any other level 1 spellcaster. Now I also run 3 Apprentice Illusion Magician. I more so run it for it being a level 6, and it's also a spellcaster that can special summon itself. Illusion Magician you can special summon from your hand by discarding 1 card. And we mainly want that because if we go into Illusion Magician and Coral Dragon, then we can use our Ultimate Tzolk'in. Now this deck is pretty draw heavy, unfortunately, because you want to see a number of cards and be able to summon a bunch of monsters on the field to be able to do different stuff. So I run the 1 Danger Jackalope, the 1 Tsuchinoko, 2 Nessie, or not 2 Nessie, 3 Nessie, 3 Mothman, 3 Chupacabra, 1 Bigfoot, and 1 Thunderbird. So yeah, I run a pretty heavy danger count in this deck. So even if we don't happen to open up our Light, Past, or our spell cards, then at least we can use the dangers to at least dig for them. And it can also fill up the graveyard for a Pot of Avarice as well. Next, I run 3 Fortune Vision. Fortune Vision, when it's active, you can add 1 Fortune Lady card from your deck to your hand. The rest of the effects doesn't really matter, but you mainly want it for that one effect. And the cool thing is, it says Fortune Lady card, not monster. So you can add a monster, you can add a card, you can add a trap. As long as it's a Fortune Lady card, you can add it. And that's definitely really good because you can add one of the other cards you run, your Fortune Lady Calling. Calling is a mandatory in this deck. If you control a Fortune Lady monster, special summon 1 Fortune Lady monster from your deck with a different name from the cards you control. So earlier when I was talking about Past and Light, when I say you summon Past and use the effect to summon Light, usually it's going to be by calling, unless you have another way to get it to the field. Although it does have a downside to where you can only synchro summon for the rest of the turn, or you can only special summon monsters from the extra deck, special synchro summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of the turn. So we can't use links, fusions, or XYZs. Now there is a small workaround this with IP Masquerade, and if you are able to go into that beforehand. We also run Saryuja, which can also be a workaround beforehand as well. But sometimes you're going to have to use this to get your plays going. And unfortunately, it does make the board somewhat weaker, but you kind of need to run it. Also run the 2 Fortune's Future. Target a banished Fortune Lady monster, return to the graveyard, then draw 2 cards, which is most often going to be alive. So you're going to be banishing the Fortune Light off of the Fortune Lady Past. Also run 2 Pot of Desires and 1 Pot of Avarice for draw power. We run multiple copies of almost everything, so Desires really doesn't hurt us too much. Now, if we can at least get the Fortune Lady plays going before we Desire, that's going to be pretty desirable. Sorry, I had to make that joke. And obviously, we can go through our graves pretty quickly. In fact, there was I was doing like some practice hands with it. I got my deck down to like 7 cards. Also run 1 for 1, which is another way to get to your Fortune Lady Light without having to use calling. As well as Monster Reborn, which could also be one if you send it off of danger. And I also run one Upstart Goblin. I want to limit the number of cards in this deck as much as possible to make going into the cards you want more consistent and add an extra spot, so I just threw in Upstart to kind of make it a 39 card deck more or less. Moving on to the extra deck. I run one Fortune Lady Every. Fortune Lady Every, during the standby phase, you can increase this card's level by 1, then you can banish one face-up monster opponent controls, and during your opponent's end phase, if this card is in your graveyard, you can banish one of the other spellcaster monsters from your graveyard, spell summon this card. You can use this to trigger the effect of kind of help line up with the Fortune, the Future Vision, or Future Fortune. Also run the one Ultimate Tzolk'in. Tzolk'in's a really weird synchro monster in my opinion. You can special summon itself from the deck by using one synchro or one tuner, one non-tuner monster with the same levels, both at level 5 or higher. So that's kind of why we won the Apprentice Melusion Magician. If we go into Coral Dragon and then into the Tzolk'in, then or the Coral Dragon and the Illusion Magician, that will get us straight into Tzolk'in, which we think can then use to special summon Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon, which is a pretty good card for negates. I also won one FA Drawn Dragster. One of the new Chaos Beasts, since we do run a bunch of darks and we also run lights as well, can come up from time to time. Of course, I also mentioned the Coral Dragon, which I do not have a copy of. I also run the one Stardust Charge Warrior, TG Hyper Librarian, and Formula Synchron, which can come up if you already use the effects of light and pass and you're able to get them back on the field, which I have done before. Then you can just go straight into Formula Synchron for another draw. Also run the one Dark, the one IP Masquerena, the one Nightmare Unicorn. Also run Surge's Scoldred, which is good for any deck that summons a bunch of monsters like Dangers, for example. The one Apollosa, and the one Access Code to help close games out. That's it for my Fortune Ladies. What do you think of Fortune Ladies? Think it's pretty cool? Let me know in the comments and I'll see you in the next video I make. Bye.